worship me, and I shall give you all the kingdoms of this world. What are you doing? What? What are you doing? I'm tempting you. With my own stuff? You know I made all this. Yeah, but I didn't. Did you think I forgot? Like, I just wasn't omniscient for a second? Okay, you're kind of killing the vibe. I'm killing the vibe. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Did I interrupt your 40-day fast while you were talking to your dad and interrupted your conversation? I'm sorry. Did I kill your vibe? Okay, I'm sensing some hostility here. Maybe you're just hangry. Maybe you should turn that stone into bread. Bread? Do you think I fasted for 40 days and 40 nights and fantasized about bread? You couldn't even think of Chick-fil-A? Be slow to speak and slow to anger. You got that slow part down. But maybe you should listen to the other part, Lucy. Okay, this is why you're the most beautiful angel and not the smartest one. Rude. If I can jump off the cliff, I bet the angels can't. Oh, what'd you say? What'd you say that again, Lucy? Say that. I need to hear. That's what I thought, Lucille. For your anger does not produce God's righteousness. But guess who's? I'm him, bro. Oh, two for flinching.
Welcome to the Dude Catholic Podcast. I'm your co-host Adrian, here with a man who once started a fire by rubbing 2 cubes of ice together.
I'm Ramon.
Yeah, you are. Today, we do a podcast because we haven't in a while. So here we go, and it's going to be on Lent because we're in Lent. And it has to do with the wilderness. The Ramon fact indeed indicates that. And the scripture does even more so. And our scripture today comes from
the Gospel of Mark, chapter 1, verse 12. The Spirit drove Jesus out into the desert, and he remained in the desert for 40 days, tempted by Satan. He was among wild beasts, and the angels ministered to him.
Delicious.
Delicious indeed. So let's get this podcast on the road. So today we're focusing on Lent, and on many little aspects of Lent. That's one of the richest of the faith, that you can talk about one thing, come back a year, talk about it in a different way. So hopefully, like clockwork, we can expect that to happen. Things can and will go wrong. Today we went live and did the Litany of Trust, and when I was trying to upload it, or when I was trying to post it, it didn't post. Because, I even went off of Wi-Fi, because I noticed that when I go on Wi-Fi, it kind of cuts. But I went on the regular cell service, whatever that's called, and it also cut in and out. And that was a sign that old Sparky is at it again. Old Lucy is at it again. Lucille is trying to get at us, but you can't stop. You can't stop what the Lord wants to happen. So if he wants this to happen, it's gonna happen. And I believe, indeed, it is happening. So, like I was saying, Lent. So Lent this year, it's been an interesting one, because I've been a little off spiritually, to be honest with you. And so when we got together last time, it was a week ago, we didn't record anything, but we're like, yeah, let's go to confession, be in the state of grace, and then record. And I was like, yes, that is the thing. And so we went to confession. And so many things have been like kind of popping into my head about like what we should speak. And then we had a conversation before, and so many other things we can talk about, and so that's kind of a cool thing. Yesterday I also did another live, and I did the Bible study. Tune in. Every Sunday I've been doing a Bible study. I don't know if it's going to keep going forever, but at least for Lent, I think we're going to keep it going. If possible, go live again at some point. Don't have it scheduled or anything like that, so you can just catch it after. So let's get it going. How's your Lent going, Ramon?
Not bad. Not bad.
It just started.
Yeah, it just started. Yeah, I didn't give anything up, but I am offering up a lot of a lot of stuff in my heart. I've been making it more of a point to be, and not that I wasn't before, but now I'm more forward when it comes to the faith. Like, instead of saying bless you, say God bless you, and that's opened up different conversations at work. Cause it doesn't sound weird when I say it. It doesn't sound like I'm preaching, cause
It's just matter of fact.
it's just matter of fact. Thank you for saying that, because that's exactly what it is. It's just matter of fact. It kind of matches with how I try to be at work. And yes, sometimes we have to be a little bit more rough than not, but it's always in a very respectful manner at first. It starts at first in a respectful manner. I do have a little story that I wanna talk to you guys about. Of course, I'm gonna spare some of the details just because it's work.
Yeah.
But there's I work in a different area now, and there's a guy that I remember when he first got there. Really good. He was such a solid trainee. I don't know, there was something about him. He looks like the opposite of me, kind of. He's really tall. He's a very imposing guy, and he's so nice. He's no slouch though. He's no pushover.
All right, just the height. That's it then. It's not that much different.
Nah, I don't know.
No, Ramon's
I'm
pretty
a-
squared up. It's good. You're imposing in your own way.
And in a little way, a little imposing. Anyway, he's such a good dude, and I'm working with him now in this area, and it's a different population that we take care of. They have to be waist chained everywhere, and whatever. So this guy, we were putting him back, from the showers, and he just started acting weird, like, just being very disrespectful. So we're like, cool, like, okay, well, he wanted to go to the clinic for whatever medical thing, and we take that seriously. But a lot of the times these guys lie about it so they can get out, and then they start doing things, and once in a while they'll attack us. But this guy, I kind of heard like what was going on. And then I go upstairs. I'm like, hey, dude, like, you are gonna be taken to medical. We just have to finish this thing, and you can't be out here. You have to go back in, and then we're gonna take you when we make time. Long story short, we ended up taking him to the clinic. My boy, the super tall dude, and from the clinic to urgent care, and from urgent care they're gonna take him to the hospital, but for a totally different related thing, right? He had signs of COVID or whatever. So they're supposed to be quarantined away from everybody at some hospital. Actually, not the hospital, but rather a different area in a different like jail that's across the street from us. So again, I'm gonna spare some of the details. He was just telling my boy, my buddy, my friend, like, yeah, I'm not gonna go in that quarantine area without this property, and we already had packed all his property, and my buddy, he was like trying to be, the voice of reason, and then I make a few phone calls, call the sergeant, our sergeant, and be like, hey, Sarge, this is what we got, ABC, and the sergeant's like, okay, cool, let's just get a total of 5 guys, and then, let's encourage this person to take it in. I mean, we have policies, don't get me wrong. It's not like back in the day where you should just batter a bunch of dudes and you're going to do what we tell you to do. It's not like that anymore. They determine if that's what's going to happen. So, and then I call over my buddy. He was like, hey, bro, this is what we have. And I see what you're doing, because I tend to do that too. But there's no reasoning with this guy. So I called Sarge. Sarge said, ABC. And then she said X, Y, and Z. And he's like, okay, cool. Whatever, we got the team going. I wasn't part of it because I was just working a single shift. And we figured that was going to take kind of a long time, because there's a lot of paperwork that needs to be done before and after we get that stuff done, right? Before we go hands-on. Like plant force, basically. Anyway. So that happens. Thank God it didn't go to extreme measures. The dude just like he saw that we weren't messing around, and he took it in. Whatever. He came back and he was writing him up. He was typing up like a little report, and I was like, "Hey, bro," because he asked me like, "Hey, how does this sound?" So I added some things, and then I was like, "Hey, I hope I didn't overstep with what you were doing." He's like, "No." He's like, "Honestly, like I'm glad you stepped in, because," he said, I'm respectful, but there's times where you just need to take action." And that's when you came in to remind me of that. And it's been working out so good lately, because the whole God bless you thing opens up so many conversations. Like, "Oh, you're religious or what?" It's like, I don't know, but I know God really, really loves me, and I really, really like him. And I'm trying to love him a little bit better. And therefore, it helps me love you guys a little bit better. You know, because you talk about the thin blue line, whatever, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But that stuff goes deep. You know, like I've told them before, like, "Hey," like, and they know I'm not playing with this. Especially this guy. I've told this guy, like, "Hey, like the thin blue line is awesome, because I obviously my priority is my wife and the kids. And the whole point is to go home to them. But God forbid where the stuff hits the fan, and it does sometimes, where we get like knives pulled out on us, and we get to have some violent encounters here and there that could potentially like really, really hurt us or kill us. And again, if God forbid we get one of those encounters, and I see myself probably landing in the hospital instead of going home at the end of shift, I'm going to choose to be present, because I love, like, and I've told him, I love you, and I'm going to make sure that you go home too, even if that means I don't get to go home today. And that's not possible without understanding what's going on in my heart. And I feel like Lent is a beautiful opportunity for me and all of us to realize, like, hey, God is with you. God is there when you're suffering. God is there when you're happy too, for sure. But happiness and all that doesn't matter. Like, we're not called to be happy. We're called to be holy. We're called to be men. And that's something I'm starting to understand the more I dive into the faith.
And it harkens back to something that we mentioned before, that meekness doesn't mean, or it shouldn't be confused with weakness. And I mean, that's kind of why we're here, and something that's, for those that may be new to the podcast and don't know the angle, Ramon works in corrections, shall we call it?
Well, it's the sheriff's department, and your stop before going out to patrol is the jail system. And I'm still waiting to go to patrol. The station I want to go to takes a little bit longer to pick, people. And that's because nobody wants to leave, because it's a great culture there. And the deputies actually care about the community. And the days off are great too. That's an added bonus.
Having a little consistency is nice.
Yeah.
Especially when you got people depending on you to be on a certain schedule at home.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice. But going back to the whole idea of like meekness, not to be confused with weakness. We talked about what Father Mike Schmidt said about his bishop and being a padded wall and all that stuff. Like, it doesn't mean you're a pushover. It just means that people can rely on you. People can. And here we are, part of the magic of recording outside. Not only do you hear the beautiful sound of the rain falling, because yes, it is raining, but you also get a little bit of the background noise, which is, it's all right. It comes with the territory.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, you got that padded wall where people can rely on you. People can count on you being gentle, being meek. But if they push, it's going to be a padded wall. You can't move it. You're not going to be able to move it. That's part of being reliable. That's part of being who you are. And the way you were talking about it, it's like what you do has eternal consequences, and we can all relate to it. Me as a teacher, I deal with kids, I deal with minors, and It's a different thing, and especially because I deal with high schoolers, so you have to talk to them a little bit differently. You can't treat them like children, even though they are children. You know, they don't realize that they're children. A lot of these youngsters, like they're really energetic. Like, it's funny because I'm really kind with my students, and I tell them that I treat them with respect, you know, and I don't argue with them if they're misbehaving. Like, I just, you know, there's consequences, and I'm not gonna yell at them for it. I'm not gonna like be violent with them about like get out of my classroom or anything like that. I just, you know, when you were talking about the three things, what were they? Like, you ask,
You tell, and you make.
yeah. I follow the same procedure. I mean, it's not as cool. Like, I don't,
No,
I didn't
there's
have the
nothing cool about
verbiage.
it.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly, right? Because whenever you have authority,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that you have more power over them. It means that you have the responsibility
Yes.
to make sure they're okay. And so part of my responsibility is like, if you guys are being like out of pocket, then I have to put it back in the pocket.
Yes.
If you know what I mean. And not, like I tell them, like, I respect you too much to argue with you. I'm not going to argue with you. You either do what needs to be done so that the class can keep going, or I call what I call the school security, the SIAs, whatever title they have at any given school. I just call them customer service, you know. And there was one particular kid, and I'm not gonna, let's just call him Oscar. He was acting up, and I'm like, man, he got way too much energy. I got a couple of options. I either call customer service, or you come out here and you do some push-ups with me. And I'm like, yeah, come on over, because he wasn't getting it. Oh, you got too much energy, man. And like, his friends wanted to come out and see, and I'm like, nah, man, like just go. And went out and we did some push-ups. He stopped at 20. He couldn't. I was like already shaking. I'm like, I'm an old man. I'm already shaking at 8. And there were some witnesses walking by. I'm like, oh man. I'm like, I'm already shaking. Like, yeah, he's shaking. Like, shut up. But I got to 25, and then I stopped. I do like 30 plus with my son here at home, and I was and that was it, you know. And he was like, wow, man, like he's strong or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, nah, he won. He's just being humble. But that's kind of how you earn respect sometimes.
Absolutely.
You know, and it wasn't a violent thing. It wasn't even to be flashy. I was shaking. I told him, you know, I was honest with him about it. And then I told him, like, you're on your way up. I'm on my way down. I'm not on my way down. I just say that.
Yeah.
You know, and it just kind of puts things a little bit more in perspective. Like, hey, we're here for a reason. Yeah, so it was never about, like, lording it over him or, like, putting him in his place or whatnot. But, you know, we got energy. Like, the kid, man, like, he's a teenager, and he's good. You know, he's not one of those disruptive kids. And so, like, just a matter of, like, hey, use your energy for something positive. Like, make yourself better.
Yeah.
You know, and he was humble the rest of the time, and he was good, like he got it, and it didn't have to go to that next step.
Yeah.
You know, but when you're speaking about those things, I can relate it because like that's life. You know, that's life, and that's kind of what Lent is about. It's like sometimes we need a little bit of hardship imposed on us, and I see my kids giving up something for Lent, and I see them struggle, and I'm like, yes, it's supposed to suck. It's supposed to not be comfortable, and that's okay, because we're kind of built for it. We're not made for comfort. In the words of one of my favorite popes, Benedict XVI, we're not meant for comfort. We're meant for greatness.
Yeah.
And I tell some of the new kids, I also am blessed. I'm blessed to be put in the situation where I'm taking a couple of classes that no one wants, and that's to handle the newcomers, the people that are just coming from other countries here. It's not just Spanish speakers. I have a guy from Brazil. I have a girl from Syria. So it's not just Spanish. You know, I have to make it so that it's accessible to everyone. And we're the closest representatives they have. You probably heard me say this on the podcast. You know, like we are the ambassadors to where we come from. So we got to represent right. You know, and so that's the kind of thing that I try to bring to the table. I try to not just say, hey, you have a responsibility, but we also have responsibility for one another. To show kindness and to realize, hey, it sucks coming here not knowing the language. It sucks coming here and not knowing how things work, because school is way different than over there. And wherever over there is where you have discipline, where you have zero slack. You know, here people don't even want to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. Like, what the heck is that about? You know, over there, like I remember like living in Mexico. I was born here, but I was respectful. And why? Because there's certain expectations that people don't have them here. The more you give people, the less they want to act right. And that's something that we we really do indeed have a responsibility to not necessarily make people act right, but when they're out of pocket, to put them back in that pocket, not because of anything other than the fact that discipline equals freedom. To give a wink to Jocko Willink, you know, discipline equals freedom, because when you do what you're supposed to do, you A, get more time to do other things that you want to do, and B, you become a better human being who's going to be of service to other people. And when you're speaking, like, it's not so much like, oh, you know, like, yeah, Ramon is dealing with an extreme example of this. Like, no, he's just dealing with it the way that he's supposed to. And if we do the things that we're supposed to, when we're supposed to, especially right now in this time of Lent, you know, you read the rest of the gospel. I was telling you earlier that I kind of at first got kind of disappointed at the gospel, because I was expecting the showdown. You know, that clip at the beginning, the showdown between Lucille and Jesus. Like, you're tempting me with my stuff. Like, that's a cool showdown, you know.
Yeah.
Like, the Bible puts it in such eloquent language, you know. But Jesus was in the desert with wild beasts. You know, we had and I might have mentioned this too in the past, but it's been so long that no one remembers that I went camping with the scouts and my son, and they were camping under the stars because it was hot weather. And a coyote, post-COVID, they had never seen a human being, and he started nibbling curiously at the kids. He wasn't viciously attacking and trying to kill them, but like, he was nibbling, and he nibbled at someone's head, and like, we had to handle that. And so it got handled really quick, really well. You know, the kid is fine. Like, they actually named their patrol Coyote Patrol after
nice.
that. Yeah, so they
That's
still
cool.
bear the name, and it's something that we remember, and that's very Catholic, dude.
Yeah.
It's like, we see something that hurts and we remember it. And so
Yeah.
when we go through things that suck, yeah, it can scar us and we do need healing, but it's part of our story now.
Yeah.
It's part of our story, and we remember and we offer it up, like Jesus said, in memory of him.
I say that so much when people ask about, why do you guys have to go to church every Sunday? If God is everywhere. It's kind of like a challenge, like they're trying to get like an aha moment on Catholics. And that's usually when I chime in.
I gotcha, right?
Yeah, kind of like, oh, if God is everywhere, why do you have to go to church? Because it's a mandate. Do this in memory of me. It's not just your neighbor, you know, Jesus. This is Jesus, the anointed one, at the Last Supper. Do this in memory of me. Not if you want to, not if you feel like it. No, come, offer this sacrifice. I am this sacrifice. This is for you, but you're going to do it in my memory. God doesn't get holier, and you've said this before, Adrian. God doesn't get holier because you pray. God doesn't get holier because you go to Mass. This is for you. This is so you get transformed into the man that you're supposed to be, into the man that you were created to be. Do this in memory of me. I am the sacrifice. Do this in memory of me. It's a mandate. It's not if you want to. You shall do this. And again, I'm no Bible scholar, but it's so crazy to see the amount of eyeballs that I've seen just widen up when I say it like that, because I'm not shoving anything down their throat. It's, dude, like, you challenged my faith, the most important thing. I'm obviously going to say something about it. I'm going to clarify it, rather. I'm going to clarify it so you understand why I do certain things. And we've spoken about this before too, but you know, the Virgin Mary, we don't worship her. Some dummies do, which they're not supposed to, but some dummies do, and we're not supposed to. Why? Because the Virgin Mary is not a god. The Virgin Mary was the woman chosen by God to give birth to a son, to raise him here on earth, and to help him with his mission.
And he is God. He
Right?
is God. And the thing is, like, whenever they try to take away from that, it's like, dude, like, you would not speak, you would not dare speak about anyone's mom negatively.
Yes.
Why do they feel so comfortable doing that with the mother of their Lord?
Yes.
Like, it just boggles the mind, you know? So I'm like, tread carefully. If you tread carefully with a human's mom, like, you're gonna not tread carefully with God's mom? Like, it's, I don't know. I'm just like, dude, like, I'm more scared for them. I'm like, dude, be careful. Like, just really be careful how you speak of our Lord's mother. Not just because you're afraid of my comments, because I can bury people on Instagram, but I've been told by the homie Taylor Schroll not to do that. So I haven't. I've been a lot more kind. You know,
Yeah.
speaking about healing, you were talking about that, and that hit me, man, because I do have a lot of healing to do, and I think this Lent is doing a good job
Yes.
at bringing that to mind. And sometimes you don't even know the kind of impact that you're going to have. You know, when you said that thing about the eyes widening up, like, I can see that. You know, I can see that when I talk to people, when the kids bring up Jesus, because I'm not supposed to bring up God in my lessons, because I'm a Spanish teacher, you know. But you can't separate religion from the language, from that particular language. It's like trying to separate God from Arabic. You can't. Like, it's so part of the language. And the same thing in Spanish. Like, it's adios, you know. Like, it's go with God, vaya con Dios. That's the same thing. It's the same idea.
Yeah.
You know, and so we can't separate ourselves from it. And the kids will bring it up, and I just, like, drop a little bomb here and there, and it's like, oh yeah, this is what we believe. And like, and they're so vocal about it, so it's like, okay, they bring it up. Like, I can't legally be reprimanded for that because they're bringing it up. And I'm just commenting on it, and it's related to whatever it is they're talking about, and it brings them back to focus, and it brings me back to focus as well. And so every opportunity that we get to evangelize, especially, I keep bringing this up because that's what the podcast is about during Lent. You know, it's an opportunity to heal. It's an opportunity to bring awareness of the holy, which is our mission. You know, when you're saying it makes you into the man that you are created to be, it makes us into the men that are indispensable, the men who they may not have as an example. Like, there's so many people who are never catechized, who have never seen an example of what it is to be a man after the heart of God. So that's our mission, to become those men who are after the heart of God. And we need sometimes those uncomfortable situations, that giving up of something, that picking up of something that maybe we hadn't been. I picked up doing the daily rosary, and it's been having such a good effect in my heart. You know, and whenever I talk to Ramon, it's like I experience a little bit more healing in my heart because he brings something up. Like, for example, I send you a video, you know?
Yeah.
And it was like a kid talking to his future self, you know, and like you said, you know, he was speaking in Spanish. When we were kids, like, we would only speak in Spanish. And so that kind of like...
That's what drove it home for me.
Yeah, and I was like, why is it doing stuff to me? And it was supposed to be a funny video, but at the end of the day, I was quiet for a while before I sent it to you.
Yeah.
Because I had to chew on that, because I'm like, yeah. Like, if I could speak to me as a kid, I don't know if I'd want to say that much, but I'd want to answer some things. Not fully, because I don't want to take away from the experience, but
Yeah.
But man, like, it's healing. It's something that we focus so much on not being dominated by our emotions that we sometimes deny it. You know, it's just like, oh yeah, embrace it, you know, like, embrace the suck and get through it. No, but sometimes you need to let things process. You need to let yourself heal, because sometimes life sucks. You know, and like I've told the kids, like, I actually, this week I had them watch a video, and the main quote, you know, that I feel like in the last 6 years I've already shared everything that we're sharing in this podcast, but the greater the struggle, the more glorious the triumph. And I tell them, sometimes life sucks, and you can't do anything about it, but you can do something about your reaction to it. And you can either be bitter or you can be better. Choose better. You know, you see their little eyes, like, get full of tears and whatnot, and they don't cry. Sometimes they do, you know, the girls cry, but the guys are just quiet. And that silence there is golden, because you know that they're not getting that at home.
I'm gonna give a spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the movie The Iron Claw, can I spoil it?
Yeah, spoil it. That's cool.
Because it's not like the biggest part of the movie. It's just literally the very last scene. You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, so spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the movie The Iron Claw, which I highly recommend, it's a great movie. It just came out. I think it's still in theaters. It made my wife cry, and it almost made me cry. It's a very tight family, and they kind of what's his name, Zac Efron, he plays some wrestler, and he's out on a date with some girl, and he's such a good dude, this guy. But but he said something about the family curse, like there's like a name in the family curse, and then you start seeing it later, but it's not necessarily a curse. It's just like you said, Adrian, like life sometimes just kind of sucks, and you just have to deal with it. And this guy, all of his brothers died for different reasons, and he gets somewhat disowned by his dad for not making him proud, for whatever. Again, I'm not gonna spoil the whole thing. And he has 2 boys and one on the way. His wife is pregnant, and he finally gets his dream in a way. He has a ranch, and he's got some money in the bank, but he's still very broken because he's just heartbroken. And his brothers died, all of them. And he's sitting there on a field, like in his yard, and his little boys are playing, and he just looks at them and he starts crying. And then his boys notice, and then they go up to him and like, "What's wrong, Daddy? I used to be a brother, and now I'm not." And he's like, "Oh, it's okay, Daddy. We'll be your brothers." So they're crying, like he starts crying a little bit more. But then like he realized like how God is talking to him through them, and he's like, "Yeah." And then he starts playing. He starts playing with his little boys. And it's so crazy how, to a certain extent, if we're walking with God, we can be that light at the end of the tunnel for somebody. My buddy, the one that told me to, thank you for your input, and I'm glad you were there to tell me these things. And there's other stories that I don't think I'm ready to share yet, but there's things that, because of my walk with God, have allowed me to share God's mercy and God's love with people. It's allowed me to be a positive reflection of what God is like. And all the suffering, that we do, let's not let it be in vain. First we suffer, then we offer it up to God. Because God can make the worst things and turn them into the best thing possible. When you send me that video, and then the little boy, and I think it hit me a little bit harder because it was in Spanish, because we knew how to speak English, but we mostly spoke Spanish at home. And that's why it hit me so hard. It was like, "Hey, hola, soy yo, hola," like, "Hi, it's me." And from the get-go, it just got me, because I remembered when I was like 7 years old and being sad about whatever it was. And I just wanted to embrace that little boy like that. Like, I wanted to embrace myself when I was 7 years old. Like, "Hey, little papa," it's like, "You're good, man. You're good. Just listen to your mom. Do what you're supposed to do. Get good grades. And understand that God loves you, and God's never going to abandon you no matter how difficult things get. God is walking by your side even though you can't see him or even feel him. God is right there. The sadness gets heavy, but you don't have to carry that load on your own. You truly got this, and for what it's worth, like Adrian said in the beginning, we've been praying for you guys thousands of years, right? It's thousands of days. Dog years, yeah. It's been just thousands and thousands of days for you guys. And it's made us into better men. At least that's the hope, right? But you'll never be fighting alone. And this Lent season is a great opportunity for you to offer up whatever sacrifice it is. Just offer it up, because God will turn the worst thing into the best thing possible if you allow it.
Man, now I have to speak with a lump in my throat, but just to have the theological connection to that very real thing, about our life experiences, that through the worst thing, God bridged the infinite void that we created through sin. through the worst thing, through deicide, the killing of God, he was able to bridge that eternal gap with his eternal self. So let whatever suffering you have gone through become a lesson for someone else to bridge whatever gap they have, that fatherless gap, that bad father gap, that absent father gap, whatever it may be, like in our capacity as men, we have the power to bridge that and to let them know that it doesn't just suck, that it gets better, that we can make things better. And always unite your suffering to those of Jesus on the cross. With that said, pray for us.
And we'll pray for you.
Ferrum
Ferro.
aquitur.
That's what I thought, Lucille. Oh, two for flinching.